Hello again, everyone. This is Kyle Jenkins, the Psychology Liaison Librarian over at Boatwright. Wanted to provide a video demonstration of some of the searching methods that I had mentioned earlier in the week when I visited your Psych 100 class. And again, these are search tips using library databases for how to find articles that will build on or continue discussing the themes and ideas that are mentioned in the classic psychology articles that you've read. So I'm going to start with one search, again, discoverable right from the homepage of our library, library.richmond.edu. And the classic article that I'm going to be using in this example is a similar one that I used in class. It is Teachers' Expectancies, Determinants of Pupils' IQ Gains from Robert Rosenthal. It's published in 1966. So a lot of these methods work by finding your classical article in the records of the library. So we want to make sure that we're searching for that specific article. Typing in the article title into one search and clicking search, come up with a whole list of results. So we can see here, our classic article came up right at the top. It's Robert Rosenthal from 1966 in Psychological Reports. Some of the article titles that you search for might not have the first result come up. So if you're trying to struggle to find where exactly the record for your article is, you can also consider putting your article title in quotation marks before you search. That way you'd let the database know you want to find that exact article title, not all of the keywords kind of individually separated out, as you can see here. Just to show how that changes. We've still got our classical article at the top, so let's click into that. Now we can confirm from the home page that, yep, these are all of the things that we want to know our classical article actually is. If we want to confirm that, yes, this is indeed the classical PDF or the article that you're reading, you can either click on the Available Online button or use the link on here for View Online. You can open up the page here and confirm that, yep, psychological reports, this is the Teachers' Expectancies article that we're working with. So again, we are trying to find other empirical studies, original research by psychology scholars and researchers that are continuing on and building on the ideas and theories mentioned in these classical psychology studies. There's a few ways to do that. First and probably easiest way is when you've got the record here. If you scroll down the page past all the information about the piece itself, you can find the citation section, where it'll tell you either all of the articles that are cited by this piece or all of the articles that cite this piece in their works. So this is the going forward in time. This is a forward search to find the articles that we're looking for. So if we click citing this, we'll come up with around 146 different articles and different results that we could look through. But remember, just because an article cites your classical piece doesn't necessarily mean that it is also an original empirical study that is building on those ideas. So we still have to do some sifting through the results. And remember, one of the first things to look out for is any articles flagged as review article. That way we'll know that these are literature reviews. These are articles that are collecting together and discussing what other scholars have done, what other studies have been conducted, but it is not necessarily that these authors are conducting their own original empirical studies. So if we're still looking for other articles, we could potentially come back to these to see what other pieces they cite. But for the moment, since we're looking for original empirical studies, let's pass on those. We can scroll through the list here and try to see if anything kind of catches our eye from titles, from journal publications. So long as it's not tagged as a review article, it at least gives us a place to start. So what about this piece here? Let's go with Tackling Educational Inequalities with Social Psychology. Educational inequalities, the teaching kind of setting. That's all things discussed in Rosenthal's work. So let's open this up and see what we can find. I always recommend before clicking actually into the full article is to take a look at the article page itself here. Not only will you get to see some information about the subjects that are listed in here and some of the kind of topical focuses of the piece, but you get to see a quick description, sometimes even the abstract of the pieces that's just presented right here. So instead of going to 50 different pages, let's just start here. And even skimming through, we're starting to see a few common themes pop up from Rosenthal. We've got educational success, psychological barriers, social identity. These are all kind of themes that are there. But if we start to see past these sections here, discussing various contextual models for discussing educational inequalities, range of wise psychological interventions, all of these are good things. All of these are relevant. However, if we see right here, this is noting that this piece is actually a review. Now remember, it's not tagged as a review right up top, but it is coming from Social Issues and Policy Review. And by skimming through the abstract here, when we're trying to look for those key words of things like experiment, study, observations. Right now, we're just seeing here, it's the authors discussing the review of literature they've done. So even though this isn't flagged as such, just by looking at that abstract, we can see that this is a review and not an empirical study. So this is one that we can pass on and skip past. Things like this that discuss trials right in the get-go, those are good signs. The fact that this year is talking about nurses in dementia care homes, maybe it's connected, maybe it's not, but we can kind of keep on scrolling through. Actually, if we see this first piece right at the top here, this teacher's bias against the mathematical ability of female, Black, and Hispanic students, right away, again from the title, there's teaching, there's education, there's expectations being placed on students from the teacher's side of things. So those are all what Rosenthal is discussing. We can start to see a few of these pop up in the subject themes as well. There's social psychology, educational evaluation, academic achievement. So topically, from the subject terms listed, we know it's kind of in the line, in that theme. And then if we skim through the abstract, real quickly, we can see all of those kind of key indicators that this is an original study. A randomized control study. We examined. Phrases like this and terms like this are all things that you should look for to let you know that this piece is actually really getting into an empirical study that continues and builds on the ideas presented by Rosenthal or your classical author in your classical piece. So it's a place to start. This can give us a good window. It's within the year range, published in 2020. So we can open up this piece and start to take a look. Now, maybe this piece, as we read through, we start to realize that it doesn't necessarily do as much in terms of furthering, commenting on, or challenging the themes presented by Rosenthal or in your classical author. But after you look through the article pages, I always recommend you fully click through to see the full PDFs that are here as well. Sometimes, as you can see, they're housed in different databases. Like this one took us to JSTOR. Being able to read the piece, comment through to see where exactly and to what extent Rosenthal, your classical authors, have mentioned. That's the kind of process you want to take going through this. We could also see, speaking of other databases, the fact that when we opened up the original classical article, it's presented through Sage Journals, Sage actually gives some recommended other articles. It'll do kind of a reference suggestion to say, hey, these are all articles that are thematically connected. What do you think about these? So you can still use the database's kind of recommended terms or recommended articles to find some additional assistance. Now, keep in mind, the articles that are referenced here are the similar articles in the related content section. So they're published in 1969, 1971, and some back here from 1945. So sometimes those recommended content or those recommended articles aren't exactly what you're looking for, given your research assignment and kind of the constraints that you have. But that idea of using all of the tools that the library databases provide and offer to you, those are the kind of things you want to look for. Okay? So that is just using one search to kind of follow through those methods to find additional articles. Would also like to show you the other database that I talked about in class, which is PsycInfo. This is either accessible from the Psychology Research Guide or from the database list that is on the home page of the library. So just to show you where to get to both of those places, if you want to go to the Psychology Research Guide from the home page of the library, go past one search, click on Research Guides, scroll through all the different sections, find the psychology section, you can click on the Psych Research Guide. To get to the database list, to find PsycInfo individually, again, from the home page of the library, you can scroll down to where it says Research Databases. Then you can either scroll through the list, our full A to Z list. You could filter the subjects down to psychology, or you could use the letter filters to just narrow it down to P. But from right there, it'd be very easy to find PsycInfo. And again, PsycInfo is one of our premier psychology research databases. Focuses a lot on, understandably, psychology-focused publications, scholarly journals, scholarly articles, and other sorts of research that's there. Now we can do the same thing in one search. We can search directly for the title of our classical article, click on search, and we can find it here. Now, whether you're going through PsycInfo or OneSearch, again, I still recommend you do these same things of double checking to see just where exactly or what exactly is the information I can find on this article page in terms of its abstract, the background, confirming that it is still the correct article in our classical piece. But now, instead of finding the cited by button all the way at the bottom, like in OneSearch in PsycInfo, it's right here. Click on cited by, you'll be able to see the full list of articles that are cited or that cite the Rosenthal piece or your classical article on all of those that are accessible through PsycInfo. Now, remember from our discussion in class, unfortunately, from going through this list, there is no way to organize these articles by year to do that kind of filtering. The thing that PsycInfo does provide is it gives you the ability to show all of the abstracts. So right from the results list here, as you're scrolling through, you can do a little bit of that double checking to see if these articles make reference to them being empirical studies or not so much. Like these first few articles here are presenting reports from the British Psychological Society's Special Group Conference. This piece here is noting that this is a book, or so it could possibly be a book review or something else that's there. So you can use those abstract sections to try to hint out and see where exactly you could find examples of empirical studies in the psychology field. Even pieces like this, noting down all of their participants in the studies that are being conducted here. Again, another book, so we don't want to focus on this. Pieces like this, we can start to find some more of those empirical studies, especially for works like having the classroom be an important context and noting that those are some of the key themes that we're popping up with here too. So the other way that you can also find articles is, remember, instead of just doing the direct cited by, we could actually do a subject level search where we're trying to find articles that are connected by the themes themselves that are presented in the classical pieces. Now, whether you recall some of the terms or key concepts that you discussed in class on Monday, you can use some of those in your searching. Or if you'd like, from these article pages, you can scroll down, especially in PsycInfo here, to find these listed terms. Now, these aren't necessarily just keywords where you're trying to search through the entire article. These are terms that are pulled out by authors, by database providers, where it's a little bit more of a controlled vocabulary for them to say, here is definitively using a shared common vocabulary term, what exactly these articles are about. So as we can see here, some of these mention things like teachers' attitudes, teachers' expectancies, intellectual gains, classroom, intelligence tests, children. So there's a lot of different terms that we can focus on here. But let's see if we can just find additional articles using three main concepts here. Let's just start with teacher expectancies, students or children, and then some form of intelligence or ability. So we can come back to PsycInfo, and using the main search bar here, we can type in a few of those terms. We could do teacher expectations, expectancies, some form of fashion. At the moment, we're still just trying to figure out what terms work best. So we can do in something like this. Type in students, add another row to add in some more search terms, and then again, something that deals with the educational gains. So maybe we do educational gains, or intelligence, or ability. Again, some terms that are kind of referencing those themes. Now, again, the way we've set the search up is that because these are all connected by and, any article in the results list has to have all of these terms, all of these concepts together in some form of fashion for it to get to the results list. So if we click on search, we're then presented with a list of around 700 results. Now, unlike doing the cited by search in either OneSearch or PsycInfo, if you're doing this kind of keyword, kind of subject theme search, you do have access to the regular filtering options. And in PsycInfo, because it is psychology focused, you have some psychology focused filters. So we can narrow down the results to just peer-reviewed journals, publications that are going to present and publish some of those empirical studies. And then under this methodology section, we can actually check a filter that will note all of the things that are empirical studies. So all of the articles that we found in here have been flagged as coming from peer-reviewed journals and that they are empirical studies. So now, instead of making sure that these are actually empirical studies, the best approach to take here is to kind of skim through some of these articles just to see if they are talking about those themes. And remember, they don't necessarily have to have a citation to Robert Rosenthal, to Teachers' Expectancies article, or to your classical author or piece. What they do have to have is a direct kind of thematic connection. They're talking about the same subjects. They're furthering the ideas or contesting or challenging the ideas presented in the classical pieces. They're dealing with that in some way. Now, if you ever have questions about this, remember, you can always double check with me. You can double check with Dr. Knouse, but this is another perfectly valid method for you to find some additional articles that are based on your classical piece. And this does give you the year filters. So if you want to get down to the last 10 years or so, this is a very easy way to go about that. Okay. So that was all I wanted to do in terms of just double checking to see that you had all the methods in place for finding articles that build on your classical pieces. Remember, if you ever have any questions, feel free to contact me. I believe Dr. Knouse has my contact information. But if you'd like as well, or the best place and the easiest place to get into contact with me is from the home page of the Psychology Research Guide. That's where you can send me an email. That's where you can make an appointment with me. So that but doesn't. Again, giving some reports on how to find additional articles that build on the themes from your classical pieces. If any questions at all, please feel free to reach out. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.